nyamiri, nyamiri, koko nyamiri, nyamiri. Ibole, ibole, Igbo bunu ndamamihe. Ibole, ibole, Igbo bunu ndamamihe. Ebulanyelu, anamabara na ihe dị njọ ma na-emezi konyo feke. Anamabara no n'ihe dị njọ ma na-emezi konye feke. Igbo bụ n'ndike, ụmụ Igbo bụ n'ndike. Igbo bụ ndike, Igbo bụ ndike. Koko nyamini, nyamini, koko nyamini, nyamini. Koko nyamini, nyamini, koko nyamini, nyamini. Hey, cha 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 cha. Igbo kwazon, yeah. Igbo kwazonu, yeah. Ihe ji mara ndị emihe bụ ọrụ aka ha. Ihe ji mara ndị emihe bụ ihe aka ha. Ihe ji mara ndị emihe bụ ọrụ aka ha. Ụmụgbele ndị anya were omenala dowe na-asụ, were omenala ndị ọzọ bulie elu. Ndị anya were omenala Igbo dowe na-asụ, were omenala ndị ọzọ bulie elu. Ihe anyị na-eme Chineke na ọ dịrọ ọzọ mma. Ihe anyị na-eme Chineke ọ dịrọ mma. Good morning, and day one. Hope everybody's well. Oh my goodness, we're going to have a fantastic show today. I would like to welcome you to another segment of ChiismLive. We've been gone for a little bit, but there's just so much going on in our world, and sometimes I tend to want to partake of it. So we've been gone a little bit, and we welcome you for being here again. I am your host, Dibias, Dr. Wa Onyoha Osimere, the proud daughter, descendant of Ahai Keoke Onyoha and Noha Ngozi Rose, or Rosie, as she called herself, Onyoha. Today is the month of Imomiri on the Uzondo African horoscope. Today is male energy, a time to be competitive. Well, not today, this month. A time to be competitive, to be thoughtful, and to be resolute. I want to share a few thoughts with you before I bring my guests, my co-host and my guests. According to James Baldwin, it is impossible to pretend that you are not able to, and therefore, however, inadequately or unwillingly, be responsible to and forward the time and place that you give life. It is impossible for you to pretend that what's going on around you, that you're not a part of it. Somehow, we are all a part of what's going on in our lives, and we must take responsibility for it. Every one of us enters this world to learn something and to relearn or unlearn something we need to know. Often that journey is laden with challenges. However, we must be prepared, all of us, to accept that we are responsible for most of the condition we find ourselves in. You cannot talk about what other people are doing to you when you continue to allow it. You got something to do with your condition in the world. Maybe not all of it, but some of it. So you're going to want to know, what is it I'm responsible for? Our condition may be because of poverty. It may be abuse, abandonment, prejudice, rejection, or illness. Now, despite all of this, There's always a lesson to be learned, and we know it inwardly. It is our mind that directs us to the path we must follow to get out of our condition. Along the way, we pick up lessons of peace, freedom, strength, justice, faith, and love. All the answers that are there within you, within me, within you, they're all accessible to us through the power of our spirit. We can solve problems if we're willing. This month, you don't have the time to have other people take care of you. This is the month that you are competitive. The month of Imomiri. This is the time that has come this month. Pay attention. You must let things go that hinder your progress, such as anger, fear, guilt, shame, and blame. All kinds of things keep you stuck. In the month of Imomiri, according to Uzondo, our African horoscope, get away from blame. Do what you must do to pluck you from where you are. If you're in a good place, a good thing. If you're not in a good place, you have the responsibility to pull yourself out of it. There is a time when you must ask yourself, am I doing all that I can do? What is the message that life is teaching me? Am I learning from it? Is there something I'm supposed to know? Something I'm supposed to do? As long as you take in your environment and look at what you must change and ask questions over and over, the answer will come to you. You begin to take responsibility for your condition in the world. This is Imomiri. Competitiveness. Make no excuses. Don't stay in the valley. Raise yourself up. See, when we say raise yourself up, we're not saying, oh, you're going to become, you have to be a millionaire. You have to be a PhD. You have to have all these things to pull yourself. Just don't stay in the valley. Just stand up. If you have fallen, stand up, look up. And that is what we're here to talk about. The Nigerian youth have risen up, and they have forced us elders to pay attention. They shot at them during this NSAS protests. They remained quiet. They went back in, and they stayed quiet. Aparamba, monyaso, aparebe, monyaso. They came with knives against them. They came with, they killed a lot of them. But they stayed quiet. Then you told them to come out because they've opened their eyes. They know that this is their world. This is their country, and they've got to take responsibility for it. They have been quiet. Now you go into the bees' hive because you think it's only bees and there's honey in it. But what you've done is you have stirred up the honey. And when you do that, be careful, because the hornets are flying around now, and they are looking for you to just do a misstep. And they're not going to sit quietly anymore. What we are seeing happening in Nigeria is the election. For those of you who don't know, the 2023 Nigerian election was held in large part on the 25th of February, 2023. The president and vice president were elected, with incumbent President Muhammadu Buhari ineligible to run, being term limited, as you well know. This election has electrified the youth of Nigeria and gained cheerleaders all over the world. So now today we want to talk about what were the highs and the lows. After all the challenges posed in Nigeria by terrorism, insecurity, corruption, lack of jobs, inept leadership, and the Naira redesign, a debacle, did Nigeria get it right this time? Did Nigeria serve its young people? The young people came out in full force, in droves, in rain or shine. They were there. The heat was astronomical, but they came out. We told them to get their PVCs, and they did that. And they went out there and they participated in force. But what do they have for it now? That's the question we're going to answer today. The INEC, that is the organization that's responsible for the monitoring of elections and putting together election necessities, has now, today actually, because of the level of violence experienced and the tactical disenfranchisement, the late arrival of election materials in some areas, the affected areas were today asked to come back because many of them could not vote. So they were told to come today, this morning, that they will be allowed to vote. Thousands, in some areas, just thousands of them could not vote because of all the things that were going on. So now Lagos, such as Surulere, Okota, Osa, etc., about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, people did not vote there. The Abuja, Ebonyi, River State, many people could not vote. Many voting units were not available. Imo State, Anambra State, Kano, Edo State, Delta, Kogi, Bayelsa, Enugu, Sokoto, Taraba, Abia, and Ekiti. All those places, many of the polling stations did not work. Yet these young people stayed quiet. They voted. They came out again today to vote. And INEC was not there. No paperwork. And we're going to go into it now. But before we go into our own personal opinion about what happened, I want to share a video with you so you can see the level of frustration that the people are experiencing. And it was summarized very well by this pastor. And I want to share what he had to say because he really quite eloquently summarized it. He summarized it very well. So I just want to share that with you. And then we'll go into conversation with my team. We'll be coming up in a second.
A word of caution. Dear friends, we have witnessed an unusually stressful and challenging elections and vote casting process under very difficult conditions in most cases. Yesterday, some people's voting didn't start till around 1 p.m. Some things and all manner of things, all manner of strenuous conditions. But I saw patriotism, enthusiasm, and the determination of our nation's citizens for a change of story like I have never before seen. Record-breaking turnout crowds. Maybe the crowd multiply like 10 times of what it has ever been, with multitudes of first-time voters. Unfortunately, the human demons in our country and their lunatic mad agents in various parts of this country didn't allow for a peaceful and just process in those places. Video recordings of their misdeeds were flying from Lagos, from Rivers, from Kogi, from Anambra, etc., with thugs at the helm of affairs at certain units. Someone was saying, if you are not voting our party in a particular polling unit in Lagos, and the police was standing right there, leave here. I thought I heard an order that every thug should be shot down at sight. There was a place where the gate was locked, and the thugs told the people, if you are not voting our party, their party, their disastrous, nonsense, useless party, don't come in here. In some places, people are told, if you don't want to vote our party, go back to your place. In certain places, there was a report of no more presidential ballot papers. But there were ballot papers for senatorial and House of Reps. There were other places where a particular party's logo and name was not on the ballot paper at all. Also, there were cases of thugs snatching ballot papers, underage voting. I think they showed me a clip of a boy of about, is it 4 years or 5 years, 6 years, casting a vote somewhere. The question is, who are the kinds of leaders or aspects to orchestrate those kinds of criminality? Values, generational liabilities, mobile, who have neither the credibility or quality to command any form of followership or credible election. So they have to resort to criminality, all sorts of manipulative devices to attempt to win the kill. Those are primordial, medieval, outmoded, antiquated, outdated, primitive, obsolescent entities. Ancient people who belong only to history and not to the modern times, bringing Stone Age, barbaric, savage, bestial, animal behavior into contemporary times, using ballot snatching and voter intimidation. When you look at them, they look like animals. Both those dogs and those who send them like animals. What monkeys will not do, what baboons will not do, and what is demons in the name of so-called aspiration aspirators. Animals try to lead the human beings? Impossible. Animals try to lead people. Animals, apes, try to lead human beings. It is impossible. We announce that they are at the end of their road, politically and otherwise, since they have confirmed that they don't belong to this age. Who are these kinds of leaders? They are detestable, abhorrent, reprehensible, obnoxious, odious personalities, bent on immersing the nation in the flavor of shame and ignominy in the eyes of the international community, as they watch all the terrible things through their contemptible, execrated, abominable electoral crimes and actions, bringing Nigeria into odium and opprobrium. We announce that the shame that they are trying to bring on the nation remains their shame forever. It remains the shame of all that pertains to them forever. Voting manipulation, all manner of things. Now, despite all this abnormality, the people of Nigeria overwhelmingly expect their choice of leadership through their vote. Everywhere, vote against evil transparency and winning them in their own grounds, in their polling units, in their territories, in their so-called states. The people spoke. This is my counsel to INEC. INEC, be strongly advised to do the right thing and do it on time. Issues of inability to upload results on server, failure of results upload from Beavers machines, delaying the arrival of results, especially from this country, is raising suspicion. They are raising a lot of suspicion. Use of giving the hope to the country. INEC is ready. Beavers machine, automatic transmission of results. Result manipulation and all manner of kindly ensure that this is the usual zeal of the youth only produce imaginable consequences. You are not dealing with dumb. And we are not going to take it anymore. They are watching their votes. People already have the results of their polling units, etc. As confirmed at the end of the vote. Do the right thing. History in honor. I'm talking to the INEC leadership, right? The chairman. Do the and go down in history in honor and dignity. Do the and go down in shame We are not hear me. We are not going to take rubbish from it. We are not going to take garbage. You can't take anybody for the right. I've taken us for the right for long. Take rubbish.
Well, I think he pretty much. UD?
I'm kind of lost for words, and the reason what were you trying to say something? Did you want me to say something?
I'm trying to remove just a minute. I'm trying to remove it. I think I'm having problems with my
in the whole nation for the right. You are joking.
Okay.
Going in and out.
Well, I'm trying to. There we go.
Oh, look. This is something. Fortunately, you and I grew up in the same household.
What it is I had to play that because everything that he talked about, he just literally summarized what went on. Let's start by saying that positive things did happen. A lot of young people came out to vote. A lot of people came out to vote. So to discuss this, I want to bring in my co-host, Dibia UD on your Dibia or Chwaja UD on your hand. Dibia, what can I say? I can say good morning.
Mr. Preacher, I mean, we've all been on pins and needles for the past 24 to 48 hours now since I think it was Saturday. The voting yesterday, it started.
Yes.
We're all on pins and needles. And yes, it's he did summarize what's happening on the ground. And for people that have no idea what's going on in Nigeria.
The anger.
Yeah, he
and the anger of the people.
He articulated that very well, you know, and I commend him for that. He used the right phrases, the right words. He had the right, what do you call it, attitude. His frustration was apparent, you know, in his speech. So that's commendable. And also very commendable that the youth and old people too, young and old, you know, this is just not about the youth. Old people were out there, you know, people our age, 40s, 50s, 60s, those that are in their 70s that can get out there, or 80s, they were out there. Everybody was out there. Of course, you have more young people than you have older people, right? So it seems like, you know, the young folks overshadowed the older people and all that. But from what I see, everybody was there. They all answered present. They all came to do their duty as citizens of Nigeria and take the country back, both for the young, for the middle-aged, and for old folks.
Yes.
Ahanke Okonyo has said, you cannot hold the people at gunpoint that don't want to be held. You know that. We grew up in the same household, so we experienced that political ideologies that Ahan had, which is true. When citizens say you are not going to rule, you are not going to rule. A king without subject cannot consider himself a king. If you have nobody, you're ruling, right? What's going on in Nigeria would have been resolved years ago if people had the same attitude that they have. At what level did you rank the frustration that we've had in Nigeria for the past 10 years as opposed to the past 20 years, maybe the past 5 years as opposed to the past 10 years, to get to the point where you have people come out in droves, willing to face the bullet, particularly young folks, to get their country back because they saw Nigeria sinking into the abyss. Now, what people don't understand, even if you're here as an African American in America, and you're in Africa, let me tell you a truth that people don't know or do not realize. Nigeria, as the most populous Black nation in the world, most populous nation in Africa, the biggest economy in Africa, almost about 280 million people in that country. It is a fifth of the population of Africa. If Nigeria goes down, all of Africa goes down. And don't think that as a diasporan African, whether you're British, African American, or what have you, don't think that it will not affect you. If Nigeria as a country implodes, this is not Somalia. Somalia imploded a long time ago. There's no government. People are, you know, in Nigeria, we say, they say free for all over there. It's laissez-faire. Do what you want to survive. Piracy is really the economy in Somalia. You've heard of them, Somalian pirates and all that kind of stuff. If Nigeria implodes, and I'm saying this so that everybody listening to this show, diaspora, indigenous Africans, if Nigeria goes down, we all go down. The power of the Black world lies in Nigeria. Prior to 1983, Nigeria was the place. When Africa came together to showcase its culture, it happened only once in the history of mankind, and it happened in Nigeria. Nigerians put it together, and I was a big influence in putting together First Act 77. That's where it happened. The biggest problem we have in Nigeria as an economy is that our economy is not diversified. It's not diversified like it was in the 70s, where we produce cars, we produce all kinds of, we hardly imported anything. We didn't import much. We produced just about anything you wanted in Nigeria. We did that. Now I'm going to hold off for a second, and when I come back again, I'll give you my thoughts on the political situation in Nigeria and what needs to be done. Things that we never took into account, or that we took into account after we all won independence, from Ghana to Nigeria to Kenya. But after we won independence, we neglected a key factor in the upward mobility of all Africa, and its political independence from the rest of the world, where the world believes that we have to justify our worth if we want to be part of the world community by standards that are not of our own choosing, politically, economically, and socially.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Thank you very much. And now it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Monet, Dibias Monet. How are you?
Oh, very good. And thank you so much for your wisdom. Of course, you two are my mentors, and I appreciate and am honored to be before such wisdom today. And so this is a great subject. I feel that Nigeria is the jewel. They say it, Europeans say it, the world is saying Nigeria is the jewel of the world. And for us to maintain our power, we don't want to be overthrown by other people. We already have China coming in. We have the Europeans coming in. They know the value of Nigeria. So we really have to get our leadership under control, because it's not just what's going on in Nigeria. What's going on in Nigeria is what's going on in the world. And other cultures understand that. So we have to, it is time for any corruption, all of the things that has happened in the past to come to light and be extracted. And I feel that Chineke is allowing for that opportunity to happen.
That's right.
This is the day. This is the time. Because our Nigeria, I believe, has a big impact in the liberation of African diaspora, Africa, and African people of the diaspora. And so it begins there. So we have to make sure that Nigeria is thriving. We have to understand as African people and those of that diaspora that Nigeria is the jewel, because other people, other cultures of people understand and are saying Nigeria is the jewel and would love to take full possession of Nigeria if they had the opportunity.
That's right. Thank you very much for that intro. But I want to start our conversation on some specific things that we want to talk about, so that we're concise in the information that we are going to be sharing with our viewers today. This election, the INEC had 8 years. Hear what I'm saying? 8 years to prepare for this. The president of Nigeria had 8 years to ensure that everything was in order and had the right people in place. See, leadership, you can blame the small people, but see who's in charge. You're not the president for nothing. You are the commander-in-chief. You are in charge of Nigeria. Everything, unfortunately, we will look to you. You are the leader. How is it in 8 years, INEC that's responsible for the logistics, voting logistics, how the counting of the votes is done, how the voting process, 8 years, INEC was not prepared. INEC's role is not just to give those preparedness sort of things. Even when it's supposed to be preventative, they're supposed to make sure that nothing goes wrong. And if it does go wrong, it is their responsibility immediately to step in and solve it. We didn't have that. We told these children, go and we told everyone, go and get your PVC, your voting cards. And the young people did. See, that's the thing. You don't tell people what to do, and then after they do it, you backstab them. You pull the rug from under their feet. If people get angry because of your actions, you got to look to yourself and say, what did I do? These young people had such high hopes. They have suffered for 8 years. Then they want to change things. Then the person, the organization that's in charge was so inept that we had to do another day of voting. And even at that still wasn't done right. And then the head of INEC, instead of him focusing on trying to solve the problem, he goes to the home of one of the candidates. Now, hear what I'm saying to you. The head of INEC goes to visit one of the candidates at night. What are you doing in the home of a candidate when voting irregularities are going on? Don't you think that's suspicious? Let me tell you. It's called Beavers. They told us this is the new thing. This is the way to vote. It will count the vote. They talked about it over and over and over. You don't have to worry. This new process of doing things, once we get the voting numbers, we put it in or whatever it is they do, boom, it shows none of it worked. 8 years, you guys have been prepared for this. No preventative measures, and certainly no means of solving the problem when it did happen. 15 different polling units. Think about this. Some polling units have as many as 6,000 people registered in. 15 of them, people couldn't vote. 15 units. 8 years. operation, 15 units, people could not vote. How many thousands of people do you think did not vote? Are you going to come and tell us, INEC, here's the winner? How so? The federal government gave millions of dollars so that they will not have faulty machines. How did they end up with faulty machines? How did they end up so unprepared with all the kind of money that they were given? And then some of the ballots. Now, this is what I want us to talk about. Some of the ballots, how can it be? Now, hear me. I want us to kind of give me your thoughts on this, because that's why I had to play that video for you. That man, that pastor, just said how I felt. Couldn't quite say it in, that way. I still told him, go ahead and say it. Say it for me. How can it be that one of the candidates, the logo did not show on the ballot? His name is on it. The logo is not on it. How do you vote for somebody who's not there? And when it's brought to your attention, INEC says, well, it's too late. There's nothing we can do. Or whatever it is, excuse they gave. So my question to you, in what manner does a leader of INEC explain to the people what just happened to their votes? And let me tell you, 89 million people voted. A heck of a lot more than they ever did before. Some young people were saying that this election was their election. Every year they'll be out there playing football or whatever, playing games when they're given the day off. They never went to vote. But this time around, one of the candidates assured them that this is your election. This is your home. You have to fight for your country. How can Dibias or Traja, how did INEC get it so wrong? Was this on purpose? And if so, what is their benefit? Because INEC is for all. INEC is not for one party. How could they get it so wrong? And why is the head of INEC at the home of one of the candidates? Tinubu in Lagos. Explain. Talk to me.
Well, one correction. They didn't get it wrong. They didn't get it wrong because they never planned on getting it right in the first place.
Yes.
It is corruption. Not only did they siphon money from the federal government under the guise that they're going to have a fair election, but they also took money. And I'm going out on a limb to say it and prove me wrong. They took money from the candidates, probably Bola Tinubu, Atiku, or whoever else. They didn't take any money from Peter Obi. Because if you see the way the election is being manipulated, you come to one conclusion. It is manipulated because they want Peter Obi to lose. They're rigging the election because they don't want the will of the people to be enforced. They know Peter Obi has the majority of the vote, probably about 80% of the country. The Hausas, the Fulanese, the Yorubas, the Dibias, the Igbos. Every segment of the Nigerian population supports Peter Obi in the majority. The polls have shown that.
Yes.
The videos that we've seen have shown that. The stories that we read on the internet, that we see on social media, tells us one story. Peter Obi has a mandate to be president of Nigeria. Because the corruption in Nigeria does not just affect the Igbo tribe that have been marginalized since the Civil War.
That's right.
It affects the Yoruba. It affects the Hausas. As a matter of fact, Hausas have more street children than any other tribe in Nigeria. There's no economy up there. Most of the economy in the north is owned by business people from the south and southwest, southeast, south that establish businesses up north. So you cannot economically say that Igbo people, they don't, they need to be excluded from the political conversation in Nigeria, because the economy of that country, the businesses that are outside of oil,
yes,
is owned not by the Hausa people, but most of the people from southeast, southwest.
yes, yes.
Most of the businesses here up north. So what you see is not about getting it wrong. What you see is, how do you say, concerted effort to undermine the ascension of P2B as president of Nigeria, because what they saw when the Labour
It was amazing. It was amazing.
From Buhari to Obasanjo to Atiku to Jagaban, whatever the heck his name is, did not expect this kind of response.
No,
because they've always dealt with a population that is downtrodden, a population that pretty much gave up, a population that tells you, well, that's the way it is. What are we going to do? We're the little ones, those people at the top that are controlling the economy, the resources, the money, and everything. They've got us so messed up that we don't have power economically to challenge them.
That's right.
But when the people realize that they don't need economic power to challenge those people that are stepping on their throats, it became a different conversation for those people at the top. Now, instead of business as usual, we're just going to manipulate everything and bam, bam, we decide on who's going to be president. They now found out that they cannot decide on who's going to be president anymore. It's not the business of usual and saying this person is going to be senator, even though the people are going to vote. Then we know that in the end, we're going to put our own votes and replace the actual votes. That's how the economy. Huh?
Can I just add very quickly, and I'll let you continue to what you just said. That will you can build on it. They said the INEC was supposed to arrive at 8 a.m. Okay, people were lined up at 2 a.m.
Look at that.
2 a.m. Young people were lined up 2 a.m. 8 a.m. they hadn't come. 9, 10, 11, 12, 1 p.m. in some places, except up north. Up north, they were there on time. Think about what I'm saying. But in the south, southeast, they were late. And then it was supposed to end at 2 p.m. But you came at 1. And there are thousands waiting to vote.
It's voter suppression, like in the South during the American election, where the Republicans over here tried to suppress the black vote. It's the same kind of thing. It's voter election. Look, I has always been, and I am, and I know you are, has always been against this ballot box democracy. Julius Nyerere, Julius Nyerere, who used to be the president of Tanzania, had opined that Africa is not ready for democracy. And if Africa ends up a democratic continent, in terms of all the different countries in Africa being democratic, it must be built, like I said, under the socio-economic traditions of the people.
Yes.
That is incorruptible. Africa, because of its varying, see, Africa is not like the United States, that you got Chinese, African Americans, and all these people that came here. One segment came here because they were forced, taken from their land. The rest of them came here voluntarily, seeking whatever opportunities. From the Italians that ended up creating this mafia criminal organizations here in the United States, bank robbers, the Irish gangs. African Americans came here not by their own choosing, but through forced slavery. Africa has a more diverse people in it than any other continent in the world. And it is naturally diversified. And because this diversification is natural, Africa is more of, in terms of democracy, should build its social democratic system because it's incorruptible. There's something called Ujama. You know what I'm talking about, Ogele?
Mm-hmm.
That was the prescription of Julius Nyerere.
Mm-hmm.
Part of this socio-economic, culture of Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Democracy does not have to be the British parliamentary system because it's corruptible. It doesn't have to be the American democratic system. Through capitalism, it's corruptible. When you have a socio-economic system based on your culture and your tradition, it is not corruptible because the people that are involved in the government, at least in Igbo land, in the age group system of governance, are elected by their age grade. It's not a national election.
Yeah, so you have to be a certain age within that age group.
Within that age, yeah. And anything that happens that is any corruption that is seen in that particular age grade, you pay the price because it is your age grade that will throw you out and get somebody else to replace you. This is not about national. It's not about INEC. It's not about that. What you do is you take the cultural democracy of the people, synthesize it so that it fits well into the 21st century. You don't have to. The thing with our people is they don't understand the idea of evolving, evolution. They look at things, especially things that are African, as inferior. They forget that those things that they think that are superior to what we do in Africa evolved. Maybe they had a chance to evolve it because of all this, what do you call it? The history of Europe. You had the knights, the barons and the serfs and the kings and all that, and everything evolved. Britain is parliamentary now. Before it wasn't. The king was the law. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Things evolve based on the needs of the people at a particular, or the needs of the society at a particular point in time. African socio-economic political system could have evolved as long as we're into this democratic system of governance, as opposed to having authoritarian leadership, which, by the way, if you ask me right now, there's a whole lot of African countries, including Nigeria, that needs authoritarian leadership like they did in Ghana with Rawlings, an authoritarian leadership that is interested in building the country. And then when you build the country and you put all the political, economic parts of a functioning whole together, then through synthesis, giving yourself, a period of time, you can now evolve the African socio-political system and become democratic that way. But it's based on your culture. It's not corruptible. You don't need INEC. You don't need all this stuff. INEC is a political. Just one more.
It's a political structure.
It's a political structure designed to keep certain people in power. Period. That's what I know. Most people understand that now. They probably didn't understand it before because they always put this veil, put a veil over our face, and the narratives that come out from the federal government when people have their somebody's food in their throat that make them not think very well. But the truth of the matter is, INEC was designed to keep certain politicians in power. And it's a revolving. Look at all the candidates that have, for the past 20 years in Nigeria, we've pretty much have the same people running the country. Yes. And when they stop being, they recycle the same people. If you're not governor, you're senator. Then after being senator, you can come back to be governor again. Then you become governor, and when you've stolen as much money as you can, then you become senator. The people that you're stealing the money from, they're not the one voting you back to be a senator. It's already been decided. Your votes are waiting in the warehouse somewhere. When people go and cast their votes, the votes are thrown away, replaced by this other vote, and now you're a senator after you destroyed the economy of your state.
Let me go.
INEC is a criminal political organization, period.
Enough said. I want to go to Dr. Monet. Thank you very much, Dibia Yudi.
Yes.
one little point I want to pull out, and you compare that to what you see here in your own system, because this is what we're experiencing. For instance, thus far, the results were supposed to come out immediately, following for every unit station, right? Voting station, we're supposed to know immediately, right? Okay. Thus far, only 19%. In other words, the bulk of it should have been yesterday. Even as new polling, people are still voting. Voting was yesterday. What time is it right now? That means it's approximately what, about 5 o'clock? People are still voting. Something that they were supposed to have done yesterday. Okay.
It's about 4:30 or something like that.
Okay, they're still voting. Okay, so INEC has only shown for 19% of the votes, but they are not tallying. They're not showing us the presidential votes. They are telling us the senatorial and House of Assembly votes. How do you see any such issues with your own system of election here? Do you see any I mean, I'm American as well, and I know there are some discrepancies here and there. What do you see based on what we're telling you? Where do you see issues mirroring what you see here?
I think most of the issues are mirroring the things that has been going on in our elections. I in my remembrance, I know with George Bush, when George Bush Jr. Was elected, and he was not supposed to be elected, but they found ways in order for him to be elected through these type of processes. The same thing, similar things that are going on there in Nigeria. And so, they say, well, this is a democracy and all of these different things. But because of the things that are going on, it makes me feel as if it's not. It makes me feel as if it is predetermined who they are going to allow in power, And so, for me, it feels as if you're not, you don't have a whole lot of control. They want to give you the illusion that you do, but you really don't have as much control over your leadership and who will be in office as you think. And so it's unfortunate with all of the technology that is out here. Most people around the world have phones. We have literally have almost like computers in our hands. Why is it that systems have not been put in place that we can even just vote from our phones? So it's the structures are there on purpose. The structures are there to make it seem as if we have had some decision in that person coming into the leadership, when if certain people they want in office at that time, if they want that, they're going to make provisions for that happening. And so I agree that is very similar to what is going on. I also agree with Uncle Yudi with saying, what he was saying as far as having that cultural aspect when it comes to government there in Nigeria. I think that is very important, that cultural aspect is added because it works, and it has been working, for forever, so, taking that out and trying to model, and that's the problem a lot of times with us, is we try to model the European system. But as we know, the European system has always been corrupted. The things that Europeans have done has always been corrupted, even amongst their own people. So we must look at that and say, okay, let's go take from something that does work, that lines up with our culture and who we are as a people, and then like Uncle Yuri was saying, modernize that. You know, just modernize it, but keep those structures in place.
Yes.
And if someone is corrupt or doing something they're not supposed to be doing, we have those systems of being able to immediately extract them out of those positions.
Perfect.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I have breaking news to share with you. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I have breaking news to share with you. Listen up here. Obasanjo, the former president of Nigeria, storms the INEC collection center in Abuja with the real results of all the 36 states and the federal government. INEC chairman was in shock when Obasanjo showed up in Abuja, INEC collect, with the 2023 original result sheet for all states. How Obasanjo got the result and how he got the INEC server password remains unknown, as the INEC chairman's request for the suspension of the presidential election.
I told you.
The result that Obasanjo, listen, the original result that Obasanjo had with him shows Peter Obi coming first with 10 million votes margin, and Atiku coming second with a 4 million votes margin. Who couldn't get 5% in each state that is required? The chicken is coming home to roost.
I said it at the beginning of the show. At the beginning of the show. I said at the beginning of the show, INEC is a political mafia system whose job is to prop up certain people because the leaders of INEC are being fed a whole lot of dollar bills, a lot of money. It's crookery. That's all that is. It's organized crime, political organized criminals. That's what that thing is. Because when you look at the evidence, videotapes, interviews, write-ups in the newspapers, social media, there is no way anybody else can win the Nigerian election if it is not Peter Obi. Period. But what they were trying to do is to take all the legitimate votes, put them aside, and bring in their own votes, predetermined on who is going to have the majority and who's going to be president, so that we continue this cycle of corruption and continue to sink into this abyss of hopelessness. We are at the bottom as a country. What you say?
Yes, it's supposed to be breaking news. If it holds, if it's true, then it's game over. If it's true, it's game over. We can't afford. Even Obasanjo knows this. He says this country can't continue like this.
The corruption is too much. Okay, let me tell you something. Okay, let me tell you something. Let me just make this. Let me put this in the worst scenario possible. Welcome to Somalia 2.0. If this election ends up in the hands of somebody else other than Peter Obi, the youth criminals, there's no economy. People, they are not, the educational, the whole country is done. The number of people that you see casting their vote, the turnout in this election tells one story and one story alone only. Nigerians realize that we are at the precipice of total implosion as a failed state in Africa. If Nigeria goes, so does every single country in Africa. Think about this for a second, just from Africa alone. We got about 280 million people in that country.
I'm just talking.
The exodus of people in Nigeria.
I'm just hoping it's true.
The exodus of people in Nigeria into different African countries. I hope it's true, and I hope it makes a difference, even if it is true. I hope that in some kind of way gives us the right result that Nigeria so desperately needs. If people start leaving Nigeria into these other African countries with impoverished economies, the violence that is going to ensue. You saw what happened in South Africa when South Africans were killing Nigerians, saying that Nigerians were taking jobs from them.
Wait, let me show you. You talked about violence. Let me show you what happened when this polling station had maybe about 6,000 people. They showed up. Now they were told to come today to vote, and they showed up there, and they told them, "Oh, we don't have any ballots." They said you don't have any ballots, right?
Really?
But guess what? They went in, they caught the man in one of the classrooms putting his thumb on APC in a state that's predominantly Igbo.
I hope he was lynched.
Well, let me show you what happened to him. Here's what happened to him.
Having issues, but I saw that video.
You cannot hold the people down.
Yeah, that don't want to. They beat him to death. I saw that video.
You cannot hold the people down.
They beat him to death.
You cannot hold the people down. Can you hear me? You cannot.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Yeah.
You cannot hold the people down. You do not want to be held down. Look, it's not the same Nigeria anymore.
No,
it's not.
Not anymore. It's done.
It's not. It's not the same. Nigeria right now, I think they just discovered, what is it, lithium? They just discovered that Nigeria has the most lithium. Do you know what that is? Do you know what a powerhouse Nigeria is? Do you know what power Nigeria has? It has to get in order. We don't have time for this no more. In the past, when we used to sit back and just watch the clouds go by, not anymore. These young people realize it is their future, and the elders are realizing it is the future of our children. We can't leave this earth and leave them with nothing. Anybody who's walking around here thinking they are going to deprive these young people of their vote, of their right, think again. Let's talk about the politicians, the conduct of the politicians. You have politicians. Okay, first of all, I believe everybody had the right to vote for whoever they wanted to vote for. It doesn't have to be the person I want. You have the right to vote for who you want. But then there is the decorum that you have to follow, particularly if you're a leader. One of the things that concerned me, and I don't know, maybe you know, is it appropriate for the president of the country to show who he voted for? Look, as the president, what you show, most people will go along with you because you have power, you have authority, right? You can influence them psychologically. Okay, maybe this is the person I should vote for. But as soon as he showed who he voted for, everybody else started showing who they voted for. That's inappropriate. Was there a point to it? Did he do that on purpose? I don't know.
There's a point to it.
And then when you wonder why we're having what is going on right now with all the mayhem, watch this. Watch this. I'm talking about the politicians. Watch this.
What we are doing is being determined to do it.
That's Tinubu.
That's Tinubu.
Yeah.
Grab it. Snatch it. Yes, wrong with you.
Yes, Jagaban.
Look at this idiot.
Jagaban.
Did you see what he told them to do? Not do the right thing.
Yeah.
Not take your people out to vote. Snatch it. Fight. Beat up on folks. Do whatever you have to do. Why did he do that? If you're wondering why this election went crazy, he said, snatch it. And that's why they were snatching boxes, setting them on fire, destroying people lined up for hours. Then after they get through voting, you snatch the box holding the votes, or you set it on fire. I'm talking about the politicians. Then you have a politician from one of the states, Wike or something. That's his name, I think. Of River State.
Wike.
Whatever. He asked them. He approved for the people to go to all the different polling units in River State and snatch it, destroy it. Matter of fact, they have arrested, this is Delta governor. They've arrested INEC workers and asked them to turn over the presidential votes. Watch this. See, when I talk, I want you to see. Listen to this, then we'll continue.
Is working with Nyesom Wike, the governor of River State. They disconnected the data. Good evening, everyone. This is Emmanuel Elvis, a Labour Party agent reporting from Comprehensive Secondary School, Oginiba, polling unit 96. The state is working with Nyesom Wike, the governor of River State. Their network, they could not upload our results because Labour Party is everywhere. Labour Party has cleared the whole River State, and because of that, they are working with they said they should bring all the polling units. No one is working. They couldn't upload. They said they should bring all the results to INEC office, and that's not what INEC told us. Every result to be uploaded. Now, the chairman of the local government chairman Arolo came to Oginiba town hall, and where he saw this, he chased everybody out, and they want to manipulate the result. I'm reporting live now from Oginiba 6 and 97. So they all means to manipulate this result. OB is winning, as in with the high, but the fact APC did not got one vote in presidential election. And it has been in all the polling units, and now they are looking for. Yes, okay, doing it. We got a state. We need to take caution. We do everything need to sit up. They need to take this. They need to result. And they must not manipulate it. PDP is not winning any single polling unit. The Labour Party is winning everywhere, including local government polling unit. Labour Party clear everything. I'm talking of a polling unit that have accredited voters. APC could not even get up to 10 votes to tell you how it's working. Please, today everybody that know what to do and the relevant authority to get to should get to them, because it's not funny here. They are shooting. They want to manipulate the results. Please.
Well, it's expected. It's expected. This is exactly what we were talking about. Listen, we said it earlier. You and I said it, okay, Dibia, and Dr. Simona Monet kind of echoed the same thing. You cannot hold the people at gunpoint that don't want to be held. And let me explain something. They could manipulate it all they want to because it's obvious that that's what they're doing. But it's up to the people to say, you can manipulate it all you want to, but we're not going to accept the results that you give us. Because the majority of us in unison are telling you, this is the guy who won this election. We have seen all the shenanigans. We've seen the ballot boxes. We've seen children as young as 4 or 5 years old voting, putting their thumbprints on it. We've seen all the shenanigans. We have evidence. We have video. We have confessions. So it doesn't matter how much shenanigans you pull. We don't care what result you pull out of your rear to present to the world as the result of this election. We're telling you that a king without subjects is not a king. Every one of these politicians that we see in the street, we will make sure we get them off the street. There will be no business as usual. Nobody's going to court, to work. Every government agency that we see, we will tear it down because we are the people. Since you want ballot box democracy, American style, we're going to give it to you. The result you give us is not acceptable. We will shut this whole country down. You call yourself a king, you will have nobody to rule over. Somalia 2.0. Now you could go abroad, live abroad with all your ill-gotten gains and money and stay in London, in Italy, in the United States. Don't come back to this country. We're going to make sure that you will never drive your car in the street. Keep your children abroad. Keep your businesses abroad. You cannot hold the people at gunpoint that don't want to be held. Do all the shenanigans you want to, but it's up to the people to either to accept the result that you give them or reject it wholeheartedly. What do you have to lose? The country is in shambles right now. You don't have any production capacity. There's no industrialization going on. You depend on oil money that goes to only a selected few. Your schools are in shambles. Your institutions are in shambles. Your cultural systems are in shambles. Your economy is in shambles. Everything about the country is in shambles. So what do we have to lose? We're at the bottom of the barrel now. It's up to the people. Sometimes I don't even get mad anymore because I expect it. Our brain has been messed up. We justify our worth by standards that are not of our own choosing. In every possible societal institution, social institutions, economy, education, politically, it is all borrowed. Nothing is based on African way of doing business. Nothing is based on any kind of synthesis of African social economic system synthesized into the 20th or 21st century. We are living in the 19th century in Africa right now. We can't even keep up with the 20th century in Africa, let alone the 21st. Yes, we have Facebook and all that. But what, in terms of our economy, in terms of bettering the lives of the citizens of Nigeria, what use is all this technology that we're partaking in? What benefit is it for us? Like you mentioned before about being able to vote with your cell phone, that is 21st century technology. But are we doing it? Is it benefiting us? No. We're still over here putting thumbprints in ballot boxes that are easy to manipulate.
That's right.
Then Nigeria right now has no intentions of keeping up with the rest of the world. The citizens want to keep up, but the crop of leaders that we have in Nigeria are the same recycled bunch of vagabonds. Yes, I said it. It's the same recycled.
Yes.
I don't know. It's too frustrating sometimes. You just kind of lose your mind because you've been seeing this. This has been this regression has You have years of this regression to this point. This is the only chance we now have to get it right, and we
couldn't even get that right. We're about to blow it. Let me just say this: the announcement that I gave you about Obasanjo. Let me just reiterate that that's so-called breaking news. It may be true, it may not be. But the point of the matter is, God, I wish it was true because they need to stop this stuff. That's what's out there.
Oh,
if it's not true, I apologize. It's not my story.
You asked me a question. You asked me a question. I forgot to answer it about Buhari showing his voting card.
Yeah.
2 reasons for that. This is my suspicion. Number one, he feels the pulse of the people. He understands that nobody else, if everything was on the up and up, can beat this guy. He oversaw the worst leadership in Nigeria probably since.
Do we know who he voted for? We don't know. They say it's Peter Obi. Then they say it's what's his name?
Whatever it is, the point is, this guy oversaw probably the worst corruption in any government of Nigeria up until this point, right? If Peter Obi becomes president, in his mind, he feels that he's never going to be persecuted for what went wrong with Nigeria.
Yeah.
Or that his cohorts that were part of this whole corruption, that we will be so happy having Peter Obi that we will forget about them so they could keep all the money that they stole. For me, it is a way of him trying to, how do you say, look good in front of the population for a job that.
But it's not going to stand.
No, it's not going to stand. That's his thinking. I'm telling you, listen, we don't think in Nigeria. If the leadership in Nigeria, if we were able to think, Nigeria won't be the way it is right now. These people ain't thinking.
He voted for Atiku. He did not vote for Peter Obi. Let's clear that up. Yeah, he voted for Atiku. So why did he do that? Why did he do that? Why did he show everybody that he voted for his own party? You know, that's not right.
To engender himself to his Fulani people. That's it. That he figured he can influence votes for Atiku by saying I voted for Atiku. But then he has no credibility to stand on. Your presidency is the worst presidency Nigeria has ever experienced. So who the heck are you to want to influence the election in Nigeria by telling us vote for Atiku because you voted for him, other than the fact that you're playing tribalism?
That's it.
It's tribalism. That's all it is.
That's all it is. I want to ask Dr. Monet a question, and then Dibias, I want you to jump in on that one too. Here, we live in this country, and we know what disenfranchisement is. Do we not, as African Americans? Let me tell you some of the things that happened, and then you can share with us some of the things that happened here. They had roads that were excavated at night, where the INEC was supposed to go through to get to different parts of the community. Think about that level of corruption, that you excavated the land, the roads, so people couldn't get by. People couldn't go and vote. People were standing over these holes and couldn't get to where they were supposed to get. Okay. Many of them came to the polls. Many of them came to the polls in trucks, in buses, because this is how creative these young people were. They don't want to hear that you couldn't make it to the polls. They put their money together, money that was scarce. These young people put money together and got buses to take people who had no money, could not get to the polls because they went inside the villages. They told them, come out, come to the park. Here are the buses. And these buses took them. They paid for the buses that took them to the polling units. They couldn't vote because INEC was not there. So now you tell me, what do you find to be similar here in the United States as that kind of, I mean, that's the height. And then you have 15 polling units that couldn't even put in one particular state, could not vote. What are the similarities that you see here in the US as it pertains to disenfranchisement?
Well, here in the U.S., it's definitely that's which is going on, especially with controlling the Black vote, controlling, because it's like there is a lot of systems that are set in place for that. With our election, of course, there was things, many things set in place that a lot of people were not able to get that vote in. And despite all of the injustices, nothing really has been done to those people who set those things in place. Not much has been done. So it's just telling you that these powers are, have more power and authority than what we may understand, and they're backed. You have to ask, what are they're backed by? Who is backing them? And so a lot of times whoever is backing them, is even a higher power, has even more influence on what is going on and who is going to take that power position. There in Nigeria, the same thing is going on and preventing people from voting. But what they don't understand is, just like Uncle Yudi was saying, the people are not going to allow this to happen. This will cause a whole lot of war. This will cause an uproar if their votes are not recognized. It is going to cause more problems. So I don't care how many roads you take up or whatever obstacles that you are putting in place. There will be an issue, just like here in America, when things are, when there's certain injustices, there's certain levels of injustices, the community comes out. You cannot fight the masses of people. The masses of people, when they get to a certain point and they're fed up, are going to fight back against the system. And so, that will happen. And so in this instance, of course, if this is, if there is not justice, if this election is not fair, the people will stand up. I am just, it is a worry of mine or a concern of mine, what just will happen, because, people are already fighting back. And so hopefully they do the right thing and they understand that they cannot fight against the people, because this will cause issues. It's just like here in America. I mean, when you take so much from the people, they can't manage themselves. They cannot take care of themselves and their family. That is just a human instinct that you are going to fight against that. That is a human instinct. And that's what we're talking about. What is on the times we're in right now on the African calendar is to fight back. That is the energy that we're in right now. And it may be necessary. Sometimes we can't do it differently. It has been so much corruption for so long. It may have to happen. Unfortunately, we don't like to go to war, but it may have to happen in order for that change to come, because these powers have been here for so long. But Chineke is saying it is time for change, and we're going to do it one way or another. And it's just like here in America, the things that happen with African Americans, we had to pave the way for everyone else. A lot of the opportunities, a lot of people of color coming into the country is because it is on the backs of a lot of the ancestors of the African Americans that that died, their kids died, they died, everything just to get those rights. But it was not just by it was by force. It was not just, I mean, they talk about Martin, with Martin Luther King, all of that and things like that. But a lot of the real change happened when the community came out and fought against the system. Like they say, fight the power, so that song, Fight the Power, because sometimes you have to fight that power. It's necessary, unfortunately. And we talked about that. And that's a part with all of your great wisdom and learning the African way is to fight back.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
So that is what I think is going to happen.
The one of the things that I know for a fact is that one of the candidates, Peter Obi, has indicated he may not accept a result that they fabricate. He may have to take it to court.
He should not.
Oh, he will not. He owes it to these people who voted. Yep. And so if he takes it to court, now INEC has to show how they got there. Understand what I'm saying? It's not business as usual. A day before the voting, they made them go and sign a peace accord, right? We will accept whoever wins. We're gonna tell our people to tap, calm down, let it run its course, whoever would. But that is depending on if it's fair.
Exactly.
If it's not fair, how am I gonna just accept? Oh,
I can't accept the cheating.
He cannot accept that. I want to talk about something else. We're going to go into something else. Yuji, this is directed to you. One of the things that, before the election, they made a big deal of it. We're going to have security everywhere. We're going to have security. The police were, called. They had trucks and trucks upon trucks of the military, all in Lagos and everywhere. And the military and the police, they'll come out and they'll tell us, we're going to be here. Feel it's safe for you to come out. Just come out and vote. We're here to protect you. Security was not there at all. As a matter of fact, the Igbo people were told you cannot vote unless you're voting for APC. Go back. Now, never mind that they live in Lagos. Never mind they live where they're voting. Where are you going back to? That you're voting where you live. And they were asked to leave. The police saw people being beaten. They saw the ballots being torn up, set afire. Very few police did anything. So what was that? As a matter of fact, some of them were complaining that maybe the police were part of it.
They are part of it.
Maybe they were there just there to intimidate the people to think, you're safe, right? Whereas the thugs knew what it was all about. And they were out there beating up on people. One woman, they stabbed her in the eye. But she still came back to vote. She was determined. She still came back to vote. You see? So, that's what I'm saying. You cannot hold people back who are determined to fight back. This is what I want to show you right quick. Okay? How lax security is. Now, security is lack if you are the police and you don't do anything when you see irregularities. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be INEC to see the irregularities, all of it. Because if you're there, if your role is to make sure, okay, that things go properly, then if you see irregularities yourself, you're the police, you do something. Watch this. Did you see that?
Of course.
Did you see the children voting? But the police officer, wait a minute. Here's the point. Police was there. They asked the police, what's going on? Do you see children voting? You know what the police, head of police? Well, INEC gave them cards so they can vote.
Yeah, INEC gave a 5-year-old card to vote. Wow.
You give a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old the card to vote, and you say, well, they got the card. Is that part of, you have to be 18 to vote. And you know the other thing he said? Well, some people are small of stature. Some people are small. This is the head of police. This is the head of police. This is for Yudi, and then Dr. Monet, I'll get to you. You're next. Yudi, your thought about the fact that the police sat there and watched and did not do anything about the brutalization of people and allowing people to tell Igbos to leave if they don't want to vote, and also allowing the babies to vote. That's child, for me, that's child abuse. But you give you some thought and then share your thought.
Yeah, let me say this, and I'm going to start with the international community. I had it in my notes here to talk about it. Then Akachi kind of mentioned it too. But what is the expected behavior of Black people by the West? How do they expect you to comport yourself?
Yes.
They expect nothing less than what you see.
Yes.
They have a stake in what you see. They have a stake in making sure that you don't get it together enough to dictate to the world the economic trends and control of your own resources when they have been plaguing and plowing and plundering your resources for nothing.
Yes.
All the money that Shell and all this oil company, because all we have is oil, all the money that they spend in Nigeria has not filtered down to the little person. The only time the money ever came to the little person was when Nigeria in the 70s and in the 60s, before the Civil War, was industrialized. And our economy back then, before the war, had a little bit of cultural backbone to it. And in Eastern Nigeria, our biggest economy, what was it? Wasn't it palm oil and cocoa?
Mm-hmm.
It was agricultural economy.
Yes.
It wasn't oil. The oil thing didn't start till the 70s. Mm-hmm. And in the early 70s, after the Civil War, we had a diverse economy. We were making Mercedes-Benz trucks in Nigeria. We were making Volkswagen vehicles in Nigeria. We were assembling Lada Russian vehicles in Nigeria. We were assembling Peugeot vehicles in Nigeria. The soap that you bought was made in Nigeria. The medicine you took was made in Nigeria. The clothing you were wearing was made in Nigeria. Pastries, anything you wanted, we made. Everything that we import now was made in Nigeria in the 70s.
Yes.
How many poor people did you see running around? How many homeless people did you see? The only person you saw in the street that was homeless was somebody with mental issues, a mad person. If they were not in a psychiatric hospital, they were outside. Some of them, sometimes man or woman, run around naked. But it's rare to see that. We've had psychiatric hospitals back in the 70s. Excuse me. In Enugu, you know that, Ogele.
Yes. Yes.
What stake does the West have in making sure that Africa continues to be destabilized?
Yes.
How cheaply do they want to get their hands on your resources and pay less, take your oil from you for little or nothing, refine it abroad, bring it back and sell it back to you?
Yes.
And you pay all kinds of... Nigeria is the 5th largest oil producer in the world. Why should we have gas shortages? Why should gas be so high that you can't even afford to pay for it? What was the reason for devaluing Nigerian currency when, what's his name, was head of state, the military guy, Abacha?
Yes.
What was the purpose? When I came to this country, it was 60 Nigerian pennies to $1. It was almost double the price of a dollar in value. If I came to the United States with 5,000 Naira, I ended up with about $9,500.
Yes.
I could buy gasoline for 25 cents.
Yes.
25 shillings for a gallon of gas. With 25 pennies, when I was in primary school, even in high school, I could go to the local restaurant with 25 cents and eat some fufu, jollof rice with plantain and 2 meats in it. Goat meat to boot. What does the West gain from this kind of shenanigans? They gain plenty. And those police people, INEC, the articles, all these people, Jagaban, they're all agents of the West, because as long as those people continue to destabilize Nigeria, the West will continue to gain from our instability. The police were paid off not to react to anything.
Yeah.
INEC was paid off not to react to anything. As a matter of fact, the most important component of any economy in the world is what? Law and order. Without accountability, you cannot grow an economy. Without accountability, your judicial system is nothing. You can't sue anybody and get your money back, or get any kind of how do you say, do business the right way if the law itself is corrupt. There's no economy in the world that is worth a dime if the judicial system is corrupt. If the judicial system is in the pocket of the politicians, you're finished. And that's what's going on in Nigeria. My only regret, and what kind of baffles me, is why did it take us this long to see the light? Why didn't we listen to the Julius Nyereres, the Ahines, the Kwame Nkrumahs, the Patrice Lumumbas, the Thomas Sankaras? Why did we not listen to these great African leaders, the Marcus Garveys? Why did we not listen to them? We went back to the same ideas that justified our enslavement and our colonization in the first place, as inferior human beings to the Westerners. This is a result of us suffering from Stockholm syndrome, turning our back on our culture, not seeing any value in our way of life. And in the end, this is the kind of implosion that you get. You have nothing to stand on. You have built a castle on sand. You're wandering around in the desert waiting for rain. Go to the jungle. You get all kinds of rain over there and rivers. What are you doing in the Sahara Desert praying to God that it rains? Ain't no rain coming. That's what's happening to us. There's no rain coming. This is a cycle that is going to continue until the people of Africa, the diasporans, the Nigerians, all people of African descent say, no more. We will take control of our destiny, and we're going to build institutions based on our social, political, economic systems. Our history means a lot. We'll synthesize it for the 21st century. Otherwise, American ballot box democracy or parliamentary system of government will not work. You got presidents in Nigeria that have been president for 30 years, winning elections every year, and their country is the poorest in the world. How can you destroy an economy and continue to win elections? Africa does not have democracy. It has never existed in Africa, not even in Nigeria in 1983. These were all political systems put together to keep the people down, to benefit the West, and continue to drain us of our resources until the average Nigerian, the average Black person in any African country has nothing, no future, education soured, nothing at all to stand on. So as far as I'm concerned personally, I advocate for Nigerians to hit the street. If Peter Obi is not president, to hit the street, demonstrate, shut the country down, and keep demonstrating until they install Peter Obi as the rightful president of Nigeria. And he shouldn't back down. We need to grow some kahunas, act like people that are actually interested in their own future. The young are very proud of them. Yes. They must continue what they're doing. A king without anybody to rule is not a king. Hit the streets.
That's right.
Shut the country down. Keep it shut down. It's already messed up. So you got nothing else to lose. All these people that are advocating for Biafra, this is your opportunity to put your money where your mouth is and shut down the Nigerian government, as opposed to trying to destroy your own local economy, your own citizens. Talking about Biafra, you can't vote, you can't go to the market until Nnamdi Kanu is released. I wish he'll be released, but it's beyond our control or anybody else's control. What is important is the future of the children and the future of the country, the future of the youth in Nigeria does not lie in the release of Nnamdi Kanu. It lies on people being politically steadfast, thinking about their future, refusing any results that is contrary to the evidence that Peter Obi should be the rightful president of Nigeria. It is up to us. Otherwise, shut the country down. Don't open that country up until all these corrupt officials, all this corrupt police, all this corrupt military, all these corrupt senators, people in the Congress, the president, everybody is maligned and removed and shut down in that country so that peace, honor, dignity, and justice will once again be the fulcrum around which the totality of our leadership gyrates.
Thank you.
Yes.
But you know, I have to tell you this. For me personally, I don't care who's winning, as long as the winner is the winner. You see what I'm saying? If Atiku was winning, then let Atiku be the winner. If what's his name? Tinubu is the winner, then let Tinubu be the winner. If Peter Obi is the winner, then let Peter Obi be the winner. You can't shut any one of them down because they're winning.
And that's what they're doing.
You can't do that. I'm for Nigeria. And any Nigerian leader can be Yoruba, it could be Hausa, it could be Igbo. That's Nigeria. That's the diversity of Nigeria. But whoever that person is that's winning, let him win. We are not savages. Let the winner win. Because these young people, like Dibias, you did say, they're not gonna let it go.
Nope.
The Nigerian youth were not swayed by money. Think about what I'm saying. Money did not sway them. They did not. People tried to bribe them. They took the money, but they voted for who they wanted to vote for. And I'm not talking. It's not Igbos who voted for Peter Obi. It's not just Igbos.
All over Nigeria.
Hausa people voted for him. Yoruba voted for him. In other words, the young mind of the Nigerian is the diversity. We are Nigerian. They don't care who their leader is. They don't care who, what ethnic group. If the person has the vision, as long as the person is Nigerian, the young don't care, not the elders. Because at this moment, we're thinking about the future of the country. So we are in it for whoever the right leader is. And whoever we voted for, let that person lead. You can't just tell us who's gonna lead us. The young people were not swayed. I'm so proud of the Nigerian youth. I can't tell you. I'm proud of the Nigerian elders. I'm proud of anybody who went out there to vote their conscience. See, what it is, what the old school don't understand is that the young people in particular, that's an electorate that's already ahead of the leaders. They already know. Every single unit. The people went and took pictures. They know who won. They didn't leave until they showed who won. So if you come up now, a place that they're showing us that Peter Obi had maybe 300 and something, and somebody who had 2 votes comes out and is the winner, they're not going to believe you. You want everyone to feel good about the election. If Tinubu won 307 and Peter Obi won 2, then Tinubu won. If that's real. The same thing goes for Atiku. If Atiku got more votes than Peter Obi or Tinubu, then Atiku has the right to lead. We can't pick and choose because of the tribe of the person. We pick the winner, and that winner is just the winner, whether it's Igbo or Yoruba. But we know who is winning this election. We know that. The record shows these young people tabulated all of that. Why are you going to come out and lie to them? They've done everything you said for them to do. They stayed there. They stayed overnight. They came in early. You beat on them. You tore up their stuff. They still came back. There's an Igbo proverb that says, it's a song, really. Well, it's a chant. Apatamma monyaso, apatebe monyaso, ikpato ango ibu aba.
Yep.
They come with the knives. We said nothing. They came with the guns. They said nothing. They stirred the beehive, but they didn't know that inside of that were the hornets. So when you stir up the hornets, you're in trouble, because our youth now are the hornets. They're not going to take it.
I hope not.
I say, apasebe monyaso, apasebe monyaso, akpatango ibuaba bawagishi. You are not going to tell young people to sit back and watch another 8 years of their lives. They're not going to do it. I'm not advocating anything but the right thing to do. Do the right thing. Do the right thing by our citizens. Don't play us.
They're not going to.
Don't play us. Because there is no way this is going to be the same old, same old. That ain't going to happen. Voting in Kano, they had child abuse. As far as I'm concerned, with those children voting, that's child abuse. When people don't say anything and they see something wrong, that is a sign of corruption. That is the kind of things that we are trying to get rid of. Why are they having difficulty doing the right thing? Ukuna says that they're finding it difficult to declare Peter Obi the winner. If Peter Obi is the winner now, declare him now.
He will stop the corruption. He will reduce the corruption. They don't want that.
If he won rightfully, if that's who the citizens chose, then give him his due. Whoever they chose, if you want Nigeria to be unified, if you want Nigeria to be run properly, if you want a free and fair election, then do the right thing, INEC. Do the right thing. Don't come up here with all these results you're coming out that people know it's not real. You cannot have nothing but chiefs and no Indians, if I may use that expression. You're going to have somebody to rule. You have to have a citizenry that is on your back, at your back, the wind beneath you. But when the citizens are not with you, then your leadership is not for them. You're not leading them. What are you leading? This is about Nigeria. This is about Nigeria, all of Nigeria. If you don't want the Igbos to lead Nigeria, if you don't think an Igbo man can lead Nigeria, then when they advocate for their Biafra, who are you then to tell them no? If you can't see them as leaders in the country that we say they are part of, then you might as well let them do, let them not be, the youth, the youth are the ones that have spearheaded all of this. I'm proud of them. They have not wavered. They are not going to waver. We adults, we the elders, we need to encourage them. We need to encourage them to know that we support them, that we know the truth. We know they know the truth, and that we are going to back them with words, with deeds, positive. I always look for the positives in everything. But I tell you one thing, what's going on now? The hornets are out, and they're not going back into the nest until everything is in order. So let us, Nigeria, let us do the right thing. Let us make sure that this is an election that shows a whole different Nigeria, because Nigeria needs new life in it. Nigeria has got to change. You know? So somebody says this is Zainab, says that we are a confused nation with confused people. Yes, yes. So at this moment, Yudi, I'm going to give you 3 minutes.
Yeah.
3 minutes as we get ready to close up. 3 minutes.
Here's what I've observed with this whole thing. It's something that's been in my mind anyway, but here's what I observed. Looking at my observation of this election cycle has brought one thing to light. We've always tried to figure out a way to minimize tribalism in Nigeria. And this election, in one swoop, cut it down to 50% based on the support that this Igbo man, Peter Obi, was getting from every tribe in Nigeria.
Every tribe.
The people's condition all of a sudden did not give room for tribalism, because Hausa man and woman are suffering the same fate as the Igbo man economically.
Yes.
The Yoruba, the same thing. The Ijaw, the same thing. Every tribe in Nigeria is going through the same economic struggle.
Challenge. Yes.
And they look at Peter Obi, an Igbo man, and say, you know, of all the leaders that have come out, this guy right here is saying what appeals to the Hausa, the Igbo. This guy right here seems to have the ideas that is needed to fix Nigeria, fix the mentality, bring us back into the light like we were in the 70s.
Yes.
And then another thing I want to say, the investment of diasporan Africans in Nigeria, the dream of investing in Nigeria, in doing business in Nigeria, the amount of money that can be poured into Nigeria's economy by diasporan Africans, Nigerians that live abroad, African Americans, British, Jamaica, what have you. Those people that are sitting in the wings waiting to invest in that country, that's a lot of money that can create wealth and employment for a lot of citizens in diaspora, and also create wealth for citizens in the country. We all have a lot to gain if Nigeria, with a population of about 280 million people, gets it together. The level of international investment by our brothers and sisters in diaspora, the black folks outside of the country, and also Nigerian citizens living outside the country that have tried so many times to make business investments in Nigeria and failed because Nigeria's economy and the lack of accountability through the rule of law in Nigeria has made it difficult for people to invest. I want to invest in Nigeria, you want to invest in Nigeria, but it's difficult to make any kind of investment with what's going on. So there's a lot riding on stake, both for the locals and for the diasporans. And I'm hoping at some point, like we said in the beginning, if you don't want to be held at gunpoint, you cannot be held. A ruler without citizens is no ruler. Let's show that to the world.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Monet. You'd like to make a closing argument? You got 3 minutes.
Yes, I would like to say, first of all, what we have to realize is that this leadership wants to stand, but it wants to stand because I do agree that the West does have something to do with Nigeria staying in the state that it's in. And so we have to understand that from the perspective of from the West, they're looking at everything they have left. They left, you know, so Nigeria gained some form of liberation, or it appears to be. But it's almost like a person that leaves out of their house and they leave all of their furniture. Everything, a lot of the aspects of who they are is still that house. And you're living there, but you're, you know, using everything from that person that was there before. And that's what the West have done And so they're looking at it as a perspective, let's keep Nigeria, let's keep those people in leadership that are really going to be under our rule, that are looking up to us, and that are, they don't have the care for the people or the heart for the people, so that we can come in and pillage, and we can come in and continue to get these resources. Just like the video that Your Excellency had played, I believe it was the last, panel that we had, Chiism Live, what he was saying out of his mouth. He was very transparent about that, so we have to, and I hope, and I know more than likely this will happen, is that the people are standing up, the young people are standing up, so that we can have a Nigeria that, other people outside of there can return to, that those of the diaspora can return to a Nigeria and invest in a Nigeria that is thriving, because other people, like they said, this is the jewel. We need to keep our jewels. And so the West needs to know that Nigeria is not going to be in their hands. We will not lose Nigeria, and that Nigeria will help to build a nation of people, even outside of the Black people outside of Nigeria, that we will grow from Nigeria thriving. And so, and so we must fight for that. That is something that is worth fighting for.
Thank you. Chiadozie, thank you so much. I want to thank both of you. Chiadozie could not come in. For some reason, he's still not able to locate the link, and I've sent it several times. So he will join us next time. I just want you to watch this in closing. Just want you to watch this, and I will speak as this is playing. These are the people who went out to vote. They went out to vote even in the rain. They didn't care the condition. They went out there and they voted and they sang. In other words,
makes your
people
heart
went out there. They felt it. They felt a need to go out there and do their duty. They did it even in the hot weather. They did it in the rain. They shared umbrella. They sang songs. They hugged each other. They saw a new Nigeria coming. That's what they were hoping. But this is not what they got. This is not what they got. What they got is all this confusion, all this disorganization. But you know what? Anything that's in the dark will come out in the light.
Yes.
Anything that's in the dark, the light will be shown on it, and the truth shall come out, and it will set us free. I'd like to thank all of you on behalf of Chiism Live, all of you who went out there to vote, because I talked to my family members and they went out to vote, all the young people, all the elders, whoever went out there to vote, to cast your vote for whoever you cast your vote for. But let the real winner be out there. Let the real winner take his crown and put it on his head. He's been voted for. There's an African proverb that says, when God makes you a king, you can't take it away. You can try, but the village will not let you. And the village is at the gate. So be careful what you're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. I would like to thank all of you who joined us today. First of all, let me thank Dibia, my co-host Dibia Ochwaja, UD. Gano, Imela, you did excellent as usual. Dibia Simona Monet, thank you so very much for being here. Ukuna Ugochukwu, thank you for your comments. Zainab Z Ahmed, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. Akachi, Victorian Nettles. Let's see, K.O. Miri. Let's see who else. Emeka Onyoha, Chineke, I love that name. You know, she took a new name and it's just beautiful. And let me just remind those of you who do not know, still, you know, we can't evangelize, if I may use that expression, without, you know, without your support. So we need your support. If you haven't visited the Chiism page, do so you know a little bit more about us, and follow us on our channel. We want you to help us get more viewers. So please go to our website and become a contributing member of the community. You can go there and post something, you know, just don't go and read. Go and post something. You're able to do so. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let's see, I'm just going to share this with you. And thank you, Chukwuemeka, for all that you're doing. Check out my website. You know, that's what he put on there. Thank you, my darling. And then also check a Chiism page. If you haven't done so, there is an opportunity for you to go in there and write. Please, we're expecting you to go in there, all right, and support us. Again, support us by going to Ogele dollar Ogele. That is our what is that? I'm sorry, my mind right now. I'm trying to get my mind off the election, because I'm still very disturbed since last night. I have not slept. Believe it or not, I have not slept trying to coordinate this, you know. So please go and support us financially. Support us by going to a YouTube channel and making comments. Subscribe if you have not. Get your friends to subscribe. We could use your help. Go to Cash App, dollar Ogele, and make your donation today. We need your help, because with your help, we can continue to show up here every Sunday for you. All right. Again, thank you. We're going to have a wonderful show next week. Make sure that you are there. If you're not able to join us, you can always go to our website or YouTube channel and watch and continue to be a part of this experience. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are. We appreciate you, and hopefully we'll see you next Sunday. Y'all guys here. Well, sometimes the music just doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So I'm just going to say, goodbye. All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right. See you.